Am I ever going to get over it? We might ask that question during the course of our grieving process. Am I going to ever get over the grief? You know, in the first few days after a loss, we have things that keep us busy and kind of occupy our attention. We have the funeral or the memorial service, and maybe we have lots of friends or family that stop by or call and they offer their support. But after that initial phase of remembering our loved one, we can enter a time of grief that just seems to kind of settle into a quiet sort of lull. And during that time, we can start to wonder, am I ever gonna get over this grief? Is it ever going to end? And honestly, I think the answer to that question is yes and no. Because the loss is always going to be there and we're always going to feel that sadness. But the texture and the course of our grief is going to change over time as we integrate the loss into our ongoing life. And it's important to remember that there is no specific timeline for grief. It might be frustrating when one of our friends or loved ones expresses their concern, suggesting that maybe it's time for us to move on. They might have good intentions, but it might not be very helpful for us to hear that. Friends might want to give us a nudge to help us to move forward, and such reminders, although well meaning, can sometimes be unhelpful. Maybe your impatience comes from within yourself and you want to get things going faster. You're frustrated with your grief. You might ask, is something wrong with me? Now, remember that grief has no timeline. There's no checklist. There's no specific path toward healing. There's not a straight line. Everybody goes through grief in their own way, in their own time, according to their own personality and style. Friends and family can be good sources of help in this time. Maybe grief support groups can be helpful. They can be online or they can be in person. And sometimes you might benefit from actually reaching out to a professional counselor. In many ways, we can't control the path of our grief, but we can take an active role in how we walk down that path. And seeking help is one way that we can take action. So maybe it's helpful to kind of think about a few things that might be indications that we would really benefit from some professional support. The American Psychiatric Association has defined prolonged grief as a way to maybe help us understand what might help us move forward in our grief. Sometimes we get caught up in our grief when it becomes what we call complicated grief, and we can recognize this through its intensity and its duration. And remember, the word isn't meant to label weakness, but to assist us in getting the help that we need. Some people experience an intense feeling of identity disruption when their loved one dies. They kind of struggle with a lack of purpose or meaning. Others have difficulty believing in the reality of the death and they exhibit avoidance behaviors. They do anything they can to avoid reminders of loss. On the other hand, we can have a hard time letting things go, and we have a hard time reintegrating ourselves into our ongoing daily life. Some people express intense emotional pain, while other people just experience numbness. Now remember, every day is a good day to reach out for help. And you can pursue positive self-care like exercising or eating well. Take note when you're having troubles and potentially reach out, especially when you experience some unhealthy coping mechanisms like resorting to substance abuse or finding yourself isolating yourself. There's always help out there. So Remember that there's no timeline, but also remember that every day is a good day to reach out for help.